Imagine Chicago, Illinois, O'Hare International Airport. My first day in the United States. I just landed at the airport. I arrive at my friend's place, and the moment I get access to the internet, I was Googling how to get licensed as a clinical psychologist in the United States, in the state of Illinois. And the second question was how to find immigration lawyer. And long story short, immigration lawyer was a lot simpler and easier question and a lot faster to actually execute. So if you are a licensed therapist, if you're running private practice and you're thinking about how other therapists in other countries diversify their income so they don't depend on one-on-one practice, this episode is for you because I want to bring my origin story. And not just from the standpoint as my story, because you probably don't care about my story, but I want to bring my story in a way that you think about how you can diversify your income. My money and vocation story as a therapist that actually led me to career regret. I do not regret going to school to become a therapist. This is the best decision that I ever made. But later in life, I made a career pivot because of the money, because of my limitations, and because I did not have a mentor in therapy space who would show me that a different money script, different money story is available for therapists, is available for people like me who is searching deep meaning and would like to make difference in the world. I did not have that person, and I had to make a career pivot. Later in life, it brought me a regret, career regret. I did not regret my skill set that I learned, but I do regret how I did that pivot. So let's get started. If you're new to my channel, my name is Eugene. I graduated as a clinical psychologist with master's degree in clinical psychology from Moscow. And a little caveat, if you're watching me from the United States, you're like, wait a minute, clinical psychologist, like, do you have to have a doctoral degree? In Russia, we have specialist diploma, and my specialist diploma is in clinical psychology and special education. So my specialty is clinical psychology and deaf study specifically. So in Russia, it is a psychologist degree. In the United States, it's more so like therapist or counselor. So why I wanted to become a therapist in the first place? When I graduated high school, I already had my very first survival career. I was a sign language interpreter. And the caveat, my adopted brother is deaf. So early on, I learned Russian Sign Language. And in my faith community, I was doing interpreting for my church. And it grew into independent career. And I was already in the helping profession. So my next step would be special education. And I failed my exam as a special education teacher. I was not accepted. My round 2 was psychology, clinical psychology and special education. In Russia, we call it special psychology. It was highly specialized, new combined field where they combine clinical psychology, applied neurology, and special education all in one field. And they created a wonderful clinical psychologist in that program. So I was a graduate of that program. And in fact, I graduated with honors. Way back, people would tell me, as a therapist, you can't make money. This is not profitable career. You will be better off as an accountant, as a lawyer, as an entrepreneur. You have to earn your degree in MBA. You have to understand business. You have to understand money. All you are learning right now is human psychology. And does it bring money? Does it make you money? And I promised myself back then that I will be doing this work until I can't do it anymore, until I can't pay my bills, until I'm in such unresourceful and unresourced state that I just can't continue anymore. And that was probably not the best mindset to go in this career, because as therapists, we're often not very well resourced because of the system, because of how healthcare system is set up. And it's not just in the US, it's internationally so. Partially it is true. Yeah, we have our challenges, but also that money story that I was telling myself, that I would have to starve, that I would have to be unresourced, that I'm not going here for the money. That was the money story that I was telling myself. Later on, when I moved to the United States, I found therapists and licensed professionals who basically told me the same story. But let me start from the beginning. I graduated, I started my private practice. I was very eager to practice in Russia, and it's a little bit different regulation. It's not as strict as in the United States. You can do a lot of things, even when you are in college. You could practice, you can work under supervision when you are a student, like in your senior years in college. And my professors, they saw my potential and they encouraged me to organize local student groups for counseling and for mental health. They encouraged me. My program was actually specifically designed for working professionals. So my professors would tell me like, hey, you have to go to local centers, local clinics, and find your job as a psychologist, as a therapist, so you can work under more experienced psychologists and you can learn in practice, because you can't just learn therapy by attending lectures, by attending certifications. This is all great, but you have to practice. So I enrolled myself in a certification program such as Gestalt therapy and other applied therapies, and I found a job as a therapist. Also, I started my private practice. I asked my professors if they were willing to supervise me and help me with my private practice piece, and if I could get counsel on my private practice cases, with the stipulation that I will not take non-stable clients in my private practice as a young therapist, but will rather take easy or moderate cases so I can establish experience, establish my name, and establish my clientele. And it worked really well. So I had my teeny tiny private practice. I was employed at some point, like upon graduation, I was working at deaf school as a psychologist. I was working in a bunch of different things because as therapists, like we know we have to work in a lot of different fields. And then I realized I needed to change and I needed to move. So I moved to the United States. And when I moved to the United States, my first priority was actually getting back to behavioral health. And this is why I was absolutely obsessed with how soon I can get licensed as a therapist, because I evaluated my degree and my degree was equivalent to master's degree in clinical psychology. I was absolutely eligible for a professional counselor license. Well, in theory, but because the licensing board in the United States is rather complicated and every state has different requirements, my nightmare with licensing, how I work as a therapist, what can I do? It was absolutely crazy. And one story that I've been told again and again from my fellow therapists, now you can't make money. And my question was like, okay, I'm willing to invest in myself. I'm willing to invest thousands and thousands of dollars. Like if I have to go back to school, yeah, sure, I can get my PhD and become clinical psychologist. I can go back to school and earn my second master's in clinical psychology or in counseling. I can get my master's in social work because unlike in other countries, in the United States, social workers can do therapy. And I kept asking people, what is the end result? How I can make money? And nobody can answer me. And people would tell me, like, Eugene, if you want to make money, you better do something else. You better figure out something else. In therapy, like, you can't make money. And I realized I was asking the wrong people. And probably I was asking the wrong question too. At that time, I didn't have access to a lot of therapists who have private practice, because in Russia, I had my private practice that was profitable. I had my consulting gig and full-time gig, right? Like as a psychologist. And also I had my freelance practice, and all of that, it made me enough money so I could move to another country. And like as a young therapist, it was very well actually. And I forgot that lesson that I was actually doing it before. And what I could do in the United States is exactly this. I could diversify my income as a therapist. I can go back to school. I can get licensed. I can start my private practice. And I can get resourced and resourceful. And I can think about my practice as a business owner. My identity was more so like, how do I make money? I made a pivot in tech. And it was very profitable. I made a really successful career in Fortune 500 companies as a software engineer. And I was making really, really good money, like great money. After my divorce, my soul, my heart kept calling me, and my heart told me, like my soul was screaming at me saying, you know what? This is not what you meant for. You were craving helping people. You were craving making difference. You were craving leading people. And I realize now that this is coming home to myself. Long story short, I started my coaching business because this is the path forward that I saw for myself. And for the last year, I was really looking into my strength, into my true expertise, into my skills as a therapist. I got licensed as a hypnotherapist in the state of Washington. As a registered hypnotherapist, I really looked into the skill set that I learned as a therapist, including internal family system, ego state therapy, and really looking into spiritual psychology, because a lot of my professors, they were utterly unpopular for leaning into spiritual psychology. But here in the United States, it was actually so miraculous that I came across Lisa Miller's work and her Awakened Brain work, and she is a clinical psychologist. This is literally a reflection of my soul that I was looking for, the person who is doing what I meant to do. And as a coach, I coach entrepreneurs, I coach consultants, I help a lot of people like build beautiful things, selling from stage, doubling their revenue. And by the way, this is not this EK commercial. Like, this is what my clients get. But like, truly, I was walking in my assignment where I was helping people to build really big things. I mean, like one of my clients, he was selling from stage and like that was not even in the curriculum. He just connected with the community and they invited him. And they said, like, you know what? This is the stage. You're doing a really big thing. Yes, tell us what you're about. Another consultant that I was working with, a Black woman who is focusing on Black-owned businesses, Black-owned beauty brands, in helping them to get in big stores. She, in 1 week, almost doubled her monthly revenue in one single week. So it was very by landing really, really great opportunities in great consulting clients. Why am I telling you this? Because I was digging deep into my soul, and what is important for me, I want to equip therapists with this superpower when the therapist can diversify their practice, when the therapist can make money, when therapists can be profitable, resourced, and resourceful, when therapists don't have to depend on one-on-one work anymore. And this is like, by the way, as a therapist, it is so essential, in my opinion, because listen, when I know, as of now, registered hypnotherapist with a Psychology Today profile, you can look it up. Fairly highly optimized profile without proper diversification of your finances. That's going to be rather hard. But the reality is you can absolutely be resourceful. You can absolutely be resourced. And my story still continues. Like, I don't know how my story ends. Only God knows. But my mission for this season is to empower therapists to see a different money story, because you can be resourceful. You can be resourced. You can make multiple six figures. And I would argue even seven figures in therapy business if you structure it correctly. And I will be talking more about that in my upcoming live streams, in my upcoming podcast episodes, because I really want to drive that point home. Because in the times like this, in the reality that we live right now, we need more therapists. And I know it is hard. And I know we take it so closely to our soul as therapists when the political climate is all over the place, when ICE is separating families and literally putting our clients in the place where they're no longer safe, and then like all what we learn in school, we cannot like, and let's be honest, we're not even prepared for times like this. Like, how do you tell your clients to develop coping mechanism when they're not physically safe, or when their family is in danger of being separated, or when another policy can potentially impede their anatomy or agency over their own body? These are really tough questions, and the world needs you. So I would like to hear from you. Like, if you are a therapist who running private practice, connect with me on socials, connect with me on Instagram, connect with me on LinkedIn. I would like to be connected with you. If you're a therapist from another country who moved to the United States, who going through the same process, connect with me, send me a DM. Also, if you're a therapist who are thinking about it, you know what, the US is not the vibe anymore, and I need to move somewhere else, which is fine. Connect with me, send me a DM. I will tell you all about immigration. And I was looking into like other countries, honestly. I was looking into Portugal, I was looking into Finland, and I was looking into Brazil. And I'm not moving yet. I was just looking into those countries. So the bottom line, connect with me. Send me a DM. I would like to be in the community with you, because this is my coming home. This is my home coming to my soul calling. Listen, I would like to help other therapists to be resourced, because you have a big calling. You have a big mission. And that mission, it has to be there. Our system that we have, insurance, policies, government, it is not set up for us to get us resourceful. That system is incredibly created for like gatekeeping, which is rightfully so. Therapy is very complex and nuanced practice. But also, after we invested thousands of dollars on education and years in education, internships, years in specialization, or maybe even fellowship, it's time to make it back. It's time to live profitable life. And this is what I'm here to do. I can't promise you like millions, billions, 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures, because I simply don't think it is quite ethical. Not because I think it is impossible, but because I simply don't like income claim based marketing. I'd rather connect with you and hear your story. And also, every therapy practice is incredibly unique. Every therapist is incredibly uniquely talented. And the owner intent, what you want to do with your business. And it's also incredibly unique, and it's up to you. Like I'm gonna bring those topics on my YouTube channel. So follow me. Like if you prefer listen to me, you listen to the podcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And that's the mission. That's the agenda moving forward. Focusing on my licensed therapists who run private practice and who would like to diversify their practice beyond just one-on-one work, because we can't just depend on one-on-one work. But it's another topic for another episode. All right. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye, y'all.